now that you've gone through this, I want to know before anyone starts questioning. I mean, they're going to start flooding the phones. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Because you said that the judge said, you know how many men get falsely accused of this. I mean, have you? Because I know you're out taking videos of everyone,
Right.
grandparents, parents, whatever, uh, mothers, fathers. What are you coming across? I mean, do you see a lot of mothers going through this as much as men? Uh, what are you
I
noticing when you're out there and you're doing videos?
Right. I think that this is one of those gender neutral, race neutral situations that the opportunity exploitation, the opportunity I mean, it does not make a difference. You can be a man or a woman. You can be a parent or a grandparent. You can be black or white. You can be Latino. You can be whatever. And the problem that I really see is that the person who makes the allegation generally is the person who wins. And it doesn't even have to be proven, it just has to be the allegation. And so, for the example, when my daughter accused me, she told the police that I came in her house and that I hit her. And the police report says there's no bruises and everything like that. It never happened. My wife was in the car watching the entire thing. But because of a false allegation, my life could have been ruined. But the thing that I've seen, Jodi, is that whether it's men or women, whether it's mothers or fathers, even grandparents, I have seen people that have been broken to say, I didn't do anything. And I think the other thing that really gets me, Jodi, is that when you go through these things, when I went through them, I mean, who do you tell? I mean, there's a sense like, what did I do to fail? How embarrassing is this? And when I started to talk a little bit about it, I would hear people that would say, I've been through that. And I thought to myself, maybe my voice will be the voice of somebody else. And maybe there'll be enough that when you start to talk with other people, and as you mentioned, I videotape people, I put them online, because I want everybody to know this does not happen necessarily to bad people. Some people are bad, it happens to. But this happens to good people. And I've met grandparents that are wonderful people, and I think, how in the world would anybody deprive them from seeing their grandchildren? And that's the situation I'm in right now. I have not seen my grandchildren for 2 years. Prior to that, I was the one that basically babysat them almost all the time. So I hope I answered your question. It happens to everybody.
Right. Randall, do you want to ask Jeff anything?
No, the only thing I have is, it's the corruption in the courts. I mean, you made a statement about it being presumed innocent in criminal court, but yet even your temporary restraining orders, your protection orders, you're not innocent anymore. You don't even have the rights in criminal court anymore. You're automatically presumed guilty.
Right.
These bonds on these courts are just outrageous, and that's why this is just judicial accountability movement.
Can I comment on that? I think you're absolutely right. I mean, all it comes down to was an allegation, and it can destroy a person. I think about the Duke lacrosse players. You remember how several years back they were accused of raping this one lady and everything, and there was no proof, but everybody already considered them guilty, and they were innocent. And what I find is that all it takes is an allegation, and you get police involved and everything else, and the police will treat you like you're a criminal. And but let me just add something else too. We're talking about the courts and everything, but I will say something that I have been very disappointed in, and that has been the church. As I mentioned, I was a missionary. I've gone to seminary. I've been an assistant pastor. And I've had people in the church that look at me not merely like I'm a pariah, but they will assume the worst based on no evidence whatsoever. And I've gone to the church and asked the church for help. And the church will turn and I'm not saying all churches, there are some good ones out there, but a lot of the churches, they turn away from you and they don't help. And this is what they're supposed to be doing. And then even the people that commit the perjury and stuff like that, they'll let them teach Sunday school or sing for the choirs. After this whole thing happened with CPS, I went to a pastor who was a friend of mine. I will not call him that right now. I will call him merely an acquaintance. But I went to him and said, because he knew the whole situation. In fact, he was the one who directed me to the divorce attorney. There's a lot of things that happen in there. But I asked him to please intervene because I was trying to do something to keep my daughter on my insurance, everything else, to try to reconcile things. And he called me angry and bitter and hit the administrative pastor, whose name was David Shepard. This happened at, I'll mention names while we're at it, Rockwall, Texas. The church's name is Ridgeview Church. The senior pastor that I spoke to was Matthew Geisinger, and his administrative assistant of the church. I went out there on a Saturday evening when nobody was there after a service. There were maybe 30, 35 people. I drove 30 miles. I waited till the sermon was done. I went up to Matthew. He didn't even know that I was there. And because I was bringing these things up, David lost his temper, threw me out of told me to get out of the church. And now maybe I provoked what happened next, but that evening I wrote to him about his hot temper, and he said, and I wrote to him and Matthew, and he wrote back and said, if you ever come into this church again, you will be subject to trespassing under Texas law, and it was signed by the elder board. And there's another church, and I'll name this church too, might as well, as long as I'm naming churches, let me name churches, right? New Life Christian Center up in Addy, Washington. My former father-in-law and mother-in-law are missionaries from that church. My former father-in-law was the one who married me and my ex-wife. And when this whole thing was happening with the divorce, they were against the divorce. However, evidently my ex-wife asked them that, asked them to borrow some money from them, $40,000 to $45,000 to pay off the house or something like that. And these broke missionaries, no money, everything else, suddenly came up with $45,000 that they loaned her at 3.5% interest. So even though they were against the divorce, they supported the divorce, and they actually, in my opinion, enabled the divorce because they gave my ex-wife the way out there and destroyed the family. And they caused complete havoc. And now, of all things, my former father-in-law is teaching a marriage seminar. You've got to be kidding me. I couldn't even make up this stuff. But I went to the church, and you know what the church did? Because I wrote to the pastors. I mean, I'm a Christian. I'm saying, okay, I don't want to go through the courts. Go through the church. This is where you should go. After a year and a half or so, I wrote to the church, and the church told me, basically called me a narcissist. And it's just crazy. But they're praying for me. Thank God they're praying for me. Anyway, so, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Why aren't they, and Randall maybe knows this, why aren't the churches doing more? Is it because of the Bradley Amendment, Randall? And you may know this. I don't know why
you really don't want me to voice in on that subject. I will definitely attack the church more than Jeff is attacking the church.
And I'm a member of the church. I love
we have turned the church into a rice bowl.
Well, that may be part of the rice bowl. I've not quite heard it put I know what you're saying though.